In the territory of the elf tribe, a scene of incredible peace and beauty appears, with everything covered by vibrant and magical lights. A woman who seems to be the queen of the elves is wondering about the entire team that was sent to the place of the divine tree, which has completely disappeared. Another elf below reports that when they sent the second team, they found no bodies there. It seems divine tree might be the cause of the strange disappearance. They discovered that not far away, a vast area of terrain had been completely transformed, as if a fierce battle had just taken place there. The elf queen continues to shout, "Keep searching for me, we must find that mysterious spiritual being." They are determined to uncover the identity of the divine tree, likely due to the massive spiritual energy it emitted earlier. Immediately after, another elf rushes in to report, holding something in his hand. The elves sent to Earth for conquest are gradually losing their lives, as their life stones are fading, signaling that their lives have ended. Back on Earth, an elf is being held by the head with one hand by someone. The power gap is truly immense. It is Yule, standing before 100 elves from another planet with powers far superior to that of ordinary humans. Yet, he alone can fight them all. At the scene, there are many elf corpses killed by Yule. Then Yule squeezes his hand tightly, directly crushing the head of another elf. Whether it's spiritual power or physical strength, he is on another level entirely. The elves who initially mocked humans, viewing them as inferior creatures, could no longer maintain their confidence. Their gazes had shifted to fear in the face of Yule, the strongest human. Refusing to back down, another elf shouted loudly, flexing his large, muscular body, determined to defeat Yule. The difference in appearance was immense. Even though the giant elf stood right behind Yule, he didn't even bother to look back, showing complete disdain for his opponent. Yule turned his face and began to taunt the elf, saying, "Is someone as ugly as you even considered an elf? This is far from my image of what an elf should be." The giant elf roared, baring his sharp teeth, his eyes glowing, a stark contrast to the image of the noble elves from the stories we've heard. Then, he threw a powerful punch at Yule, causing the ground and rocks around to shatter and create a cloud of dust. Despite such a fierce attack, Yule remained unscathed, still looking down on the elf as if he were just a bit larger than the other elves, posing no real threat. The difference in strength was still immense. To demonstrate this power gap, Yule directly moved an entire metal building, hurling it straight at the giant elf. Faced with such overwhelming strength, the elf couldn't resist at all. A massive building crashed into the giant elf, causing an earthquake that crushed all the surrounding earth and rocks. Not giving him a chance to fight back, Yule continued to manipulate 4 other enormous buildings to attack. The 4 giant towers advanced straight toward the giant elf, while he could only helplessly endure. Just like that, the 4 giant towers plunged into the ground, creating a tremendous tremor. Yule stood still, his gaze filled with hatred for the elves, as they had killed many humans on Earth. His entire body exuded a deadly aura. Surprisingly, despite enduring many fierce attacks and sustaining numerous injuries, the giant elf was still able to stand up. It seemed he was a creature with great resilience. Even Yule couldn't help but exclaim, "This guy is truly resilient, no wonder he's the leader of this invasion of Earth." Although it was said he was holding up well, the accumulated damage forced him to let out weak breaths, his strength gradually waning. Then, he raised one hand to the sky, gathering a source of green energy in the air, though it was unclear what he intended to do with the little strength he had left. Suddenly, Yule noticed that something unusual was about to happen. The green light from the elf suddenly enveloped his entire body and shot straight up into the sky, creating a long green line. Then, suddenly, the space above the elf tore open, forming a void in the air. Yule widened his eyes, looking up at the sky. Another door had been opened above, and it made him wonder what the elf was planning to do. From the portal that the elf had opened, then the entire body of that creature fell to the ground, much larger than the giant elf. It had ears resembling those of elves, but its entire body was a gray-black color, unlike any elf race we had ever known. Immediately after, the creature opened its mouth toward the giant elf, and blue tentacles emerged from its mouth, stabbing directly into the body of the giant elf. Suddenly, the creature's body opened up, revealing horrifying purple eyes, similar to the gaze on the face of that massive being. It seemed that the elf and the giant creature were preparing to merge into one to create a new power to resist Yule. The creature's body began to swell, with countless eyes opening all over it. Yule no longer held a look of disdain as before. Instead, he was beginning to feel more tense. The creature was growing larger and larger, its current size vastly different from what it had been at first. Suddenly, the eyes on the creature's body emitted blinding purple light that shot out in all directions. Yule seemed to have noticed something strange, losing his calm demeanor and confidence from before. It turned out that the elf was summoning this creature to self-destruct, creating a massive explosion aimed at destroying Yule along with his own death. That was why his body was continuously swelling. Once it reached a sufficient size, he would explode. In the city, although it lay in ruins, there were still many people who had not been evacuated. If he successfully detonated, the casualties would be unimaginable, and the entire city could be completely annihilated. Yule immediately flew toward him, needing to stop him before he exploded. At his fastest speed, Yule soared straight toward the elf, ignoring the fact that he could be destroyed by the explosion, all to save the people still in the city. The giant elf wore a sinister smile. It was too late. Suddenly, a massive purple explosion erupted, illuminating a vast expanse of the sky. Yule, although knowing it was too late, still tried to fly toward the center of the explosion, determined to make an effort until the very last second. Suddenly, the Nine-Tails appeared and said, "The spiritual power has been blocked." Immediately after, the giant elf's purple explosion was halted by a red barrier created by the Nine-Tails. The elf, now helpless, shouted in despair, "The spiritual power can't penetrate that defense. What have you done to me?" The Nine-Tails hovered in the air, their body radiating brilliant red hues, signaling victory in this battle. The Nine-Tails said, "I have sealed off all the spiritual power around you. You can no longer emit spiritual energy outside." The elf was left with no choice but to explode helplessly, unable to take anyone with him in death. A scream of despair rang out, but it was truly deserved, as they had killed many innocent people. The explosion continued inside the Nine-Tails barrier. Although no one was injured, the light was incredibly blinding, making the entire sky glow. If it hadn't been contained, the city would have likely been left as a desolate wasteland. The explosion ended, and no one was injured except for the elf who had exploded. The sky remained a blood-red color. At the scene, there was only a massive crater left from the explosion, and the elf was nowhere to be seen. The Nine-Tails flew up to Yule to say something. Not only the Nine-Tails but another character also appeared here. "Gather all their corpses. I can trace their location." Back at the Divine Tree's place, he was moving somewhere with his guiding bird. The bird shouted, "Master, where are we going now?" The Divine Tree, in the form of a dark elf, replied, "To where the dragons are." It seemed the Divine Tree intended to recruit powerful allies under his banner.